Hello again, witches, seekers, and friends, and welcome to the Fat Feminist Witch podcast, the show where we do a little ranting, raving, and wand-waving. I'm your host, Paige, and together we're going to explore magic and spirituality, social justice, psychic realm, and most importantly, real-life queen, Joanna DeVoe. But first, we gotta do a little business. I'm very happy to announce that today's special interview episode of the Fat Feminist Witch is brought to you by Clever Kim's Curios, which makes jewelry as unique as those drawn to it. If you stay tuned all the way to the end of the episode, I'll be sharing a special coupon code so you can get 10% off. In the meantime, go to cleverkimcurios.com to check out her selection. Hello, my witchy friends, and thank you for tuning in to today's special guest interview with Joanna DeVoe. Joanna actually had me on her podcast, Hippie Witch, back in 2017, and I had an absolute blast, so I'm super, super excited to finally get to host her here on my show. This is episode 49 of the Fat Feminist Witch podcast, and yes, episode 50 came out last week, and yes, today is a Monday. Now, Joanna and I talk about a lot of things in this episode, but we especially focus on her Queen program, which starts August 1st. But sign up for that closes on July 31st, which is Wednesday. So I wanted to make sure you all had the chance to hear more about Queen and about Joanna so that you can sign up before the deadline if you feel like it's right for you. Exciting, right? So I hope you don't mind that it's a Monday when I put this out. It is Mercury retrograde, like I said last week, so you're just going to have to roll with it, I think. So Joanna DeVoe, super excited. Joanna is also known as the kickass witch, and she's very enthusiastic. She's so funny, and she's really empowering. And she's the kind of witch who blends her magic and spirituality with a little bit of psychology and the law of attraction. And you know I love a little bit of psychology. Her podcast has over 400 episodes, like so many when I think about it. And she's had guests on that I could only ever dream of interviewing. Although as soon as I said that, I heard her voice in my head that she was like, no, that's not true. Just do whatever you want. Go for it. She's great. So Queen is a 5-week audio journey that helps you work with the archetype of the Queen. And you know how much I love working with archetypes. And Queen brings you on a journey of self-discovery and self-empowerment. You know, success is whatever you decide what it is. It's different for everyone. And you're the only one who can truly decide what it is that you want. And even though the power to do that is inside of us, sometimes it's hard to tap into that or to feel like we deserve to even use that kind of power. So something I love about Joanna is that she's very, very supportive of whoever you are and whoever it is that you want to be. You know, she's very supportive of people to decide for themselves and to be their own beautiful, unique weirdos. So she helps you do the work for yourself. It's not, you know, instructions on how to live the perfect life. It's tools to help you create the life that you want. Sounds great, doesn't it? So settle in, grab yourself a nice cup of tea, or if it's as hot there as it is here, a whole pitcher of iced tea, and enjoy this interview with Kick-Ass Witch and Absolute Queen, Joanna DeVoe. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm really excited to have you on my show after I was on your show. I'm so excited.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here. I'm really excited to talk about your 5-week Queen. Is it a course? Course that's coming out. Program.
Yeah, it's an audio journey.
Audio journey. Oh, I love that. So I'm really, really excited about this, and I would really love to hear a little bit more about it in general, but also just the Queen archetype and how people can kind of use that to empower themselves a little bit.
Totally. You want to know what's funny? I was just listening to your episode that you did on money while I was eating my lunch before I talked to you. And you're such a rad podcaster, first of all. So let me just have you put a pin in the idea of doing audio journeys, because I figured out that people listen to the podcast because for some crazy reason they like to hear me talk. And I was like, well, I focus my products more in that direction as opposed to reading. like a ebook or whatever, although I do sell those. So I really love it, and you would be fabulous at it. But listening to you talk about money, it made me nervous. It brought back all the feelings of my 20s and some patches in my 30s. And I'm 45 now, for people who don't know who I am. Hello. And it just reminded me of the shame of being broke. Yeah. And when you were talking about your friends having to pay for you or having to just like come down to your level, and not wanting to invite you to do things, I was just like, oh my God, I have butterflies in my stomach. I haven't thought about this in so long, and it's so real. And for me, this actually ties into what you asked me. For me, first of all, you're totally rocking the queen journey yourself.
Thanks.
Like whether you've embraced that archetype deliberately or not, like what I was listening to and hearing, I was like, well, yeah, that's the queen journey, is like waking up to something like that and then doing something about it. And then even saying like, you know what, I'm not perfect at this. I haven't completely healed myself, but I'm on that path. I am healing. I am progressing. And for me, the queen has so much to do with money and financial independence and really reclaiming who I am as a person outside of a relationship with a man. It's really complex. But that's how I feel like the queen archetype picked me. Have you ever had that experience, like when you do a word of the year or something and you feel like it picked you?
Yeah, absolutely. I was, I did the first day of your free 3-day like companion to this, and you were saying that queen was your word of the year for 2016. I was like, oh my God, I totally do this. And I wanted to know what was your word for the year for this year?
Leap.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's kicking my ass too. That's the thing about doing a word of the year. If you really do it, it's more than just like on New Year's Eve, I pick a word of the year and then I forget all about it. But if you actually work with the word, it starts shaping you and confronting you with all these different challenges. Like the year of joy was last year, and it ended with my beloved Otis, my pet. Some people might call him a familiar, my black cat. He passed away on solstice. So my year of joy, and this guy was like the joy bringer. And I feel like the word of the year is about fully, comprehensively getting to know what it actually means, in the case of a queen, to be the queen of your own life, for example. Yeah. And when I got to the end of 2016, the year of the queen, I was like shouting it everywhere. I was like, I am nowhere. I feel like I'm just now starting to maybe understand what this is about. So I've just kind of carried it on. So like my year of joy was about like, how do you be a joyful queen? Or my leap year is about how do you be a queen who leaps into the unknown? I always bring it back to the queen because I think I'm in it for life. I feel like, who knows what the future will bring, but it's just, witch is the only other word that I took on as a label that rocked my world in a similar way and for similar reasons.
That's so great. I love the word of the year concept. And when you were saying that it just chose you, that's so fantastic because it really sounds like it did. And it sounds like, even if it's not like permanent or forever, it's been a few years now and you're still building on this queen journey and energy.
Mm-hmm. I found it, it started for me, Athena. For years, I would say I'm not a goddessy witch. I would say that on my podcast all the time. I'm not goddessy because at the time it was like all my friends were like super into the goddess. And if you get into witchcraft, there's this whole goddess culture. And I was like, I rejected the idea of religion and God. Like when I was a teenager, why do I need a new God? Even if it's a woman, I just didn't relate to that. And then again, I feel chosen. I feel like Athena picked me. There's like this whole story behind that too. But I started working with Athena and I started associating her with the Queen of Swords.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, just how I slowly but surely was led to the queen. And I did that first year just for myself, although I never do anything just for myself because I can't shut up. I'm like, you guys, oh my God, I just learned this thing. Or, I like to share.
Oh my God, I'm the same way. It's so bad.
Yeah, that's why I'm so excited to get to talk with you, because we have that in common. It's for sure.
I'm just so excited. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that we live in an era where you can just share your personal journey and it ends up being helpful to other people who relate. It's just such a cool time to be alive.
Yeah.
And into 2017, I was like, wow, that's such an empowering figure. I just started writing down everything that was coming into my head, like all the lessons I had learned and everything. And it just turned into this audio journey, this 5-week, it's called Queen, 5 weeks to reclaim your personal sovereignty. And it was just like all these ideas were coming out. I couldn't wait to share it. And there's a couple of videos and stuff, but I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to help other women have that experience. Yeah. And then that's how the Queen program was born.
That's awesome. So, okay, so, sorry, I completely forgot what I was going to say. I had 3 points I wanted to stick on, and now I can't pick one. I love Athena as the Queen of Swords. Yeah. Because oh my God, you're so right. I totally see that. Also, justice, but there's always that sword there. There's always that sword because of her, the wisdom and the power of her mind and intelligence, and it always
and the sword of truth, not just speaking your truth, but being able to say "fuck off" or "no." And growing up as a very pleasing Libra, that was very challenging to tell people no, to not be liked, and to use your words, to speak your truth. And I associate the Queen of Swords with that as well.
Absolutely, she's actually an archetype I started trying to connect with last year for that same reason. I was always just putting being friendly to other people before, my priority of setting my own boundaries. It was just always letting that encroach. And finally I was just like, okay, no more. And it's I could see the sword come down and it's no.
Yeah.
Not now. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't understand why at first, why would the goddess of war want anything to do with me? I just don't get it. And I was like, well, maybe because she has some things to teach you. And she is, the goddess of war is not an accurate depiction. She's a goddess of strategy. Yeah. And she wins wars mindfully. She outsmarts the opposition without having to resort to violence because she's so damn smart.
That's right. She's a really badass figure to connect with for all those reasons. It's not like she completely avoids a challenge or a battle. She uses her brain and goes in there prepared and thinks her whole way through it. She's really great.
Yeah, she comes too with this awesome good baggage, in a good way, with Medusa and Nike. Nike is, victory, but Medusa, I used to, when I first got into Athena, I'd be so pissed when I would read these. This is how I really came to deeply care about Athena. If I get defensive about something, it's going to become a thing with me, a big thing. And I was just like, this mythology sucks. This was definitely written by men. Yeah. And we have this super powerful, beautiful goddess who's going to punish this woman for being raped. Yeah. That just did not make sense to me at all. And my friend Dawn had a blog at the time, The Goddess Diaries, and I wrote this piece very impassioned about Medusa and how Athena actually wears Medusa on her breastplate in solidarity. Yeah. She keeps her right close to her heart. She's literally wearing the face of Medusa over her heart. And it's a feminist thing for me, which I think you might be able to appreciate.
Yeah. Yes, I can.
queens recognize other queens and support other queens. And that's one of the worst tricks of the patriarchy, is to turn us against each other.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love all the feminist like revisions of these Greek myths. And it's not like they're a complete revision, because a lot of times the original story was a little bit more balanced, you know? In the original story, Athena really was helping Medusa out by making her this like powerful creature, but over time, being told by men so many and filtered through our society, they just become something different.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way they're all getting rewritten. Like Medusa is really great, and Persephone's getting a lot of rewrites, and that's really
Yes,
fun.
totally. That's another good one.
Yeah. And the rewrites were, or the revisions, I guess, they're kind of necessary, and they make the myths a little bit more applicable to us.
Yeah, I really attribute that to what I see as the democracy of art, which I don't know if like whoever invented the internet could have imagined this time, but all of a sudden it's like the people, it's people power. Like I know we feel disempowered politically, a lot of us, or we're frustrated with what's going on, but I love the way that we're shaping pop culture and telling a woman's story from a woman's perspective, or telling a person of color's story from a person of color's perspective, or there can be this huge trend of like hashtag whatever, and then all of a sudden these powerful industries and filmmakers, they start paying attention and they start going, oh, there's a market there. And it's bizarre how capitalism is like following the lead of the little people. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, they're following us around just a little bit.
They really are. Yeah. And then they try to emulate us, which is funny. And then it's interesting when they end up hiring people that they like find on YouTube or whatever to be their brand spokesperson. I'm just like, this is so, I never could have imagined this. It's crazy. Yeah.
It's surreal. It's a really cool but kind of bizarre time to be alive, especially because we remember the time before the internet existed, and it was like a whole other world.
Yes, it was a whole other world.
It was like living on a completely different planet when I think about it now.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned Medusa and Nike and Athena. Do you work with any other specific goddesses or queens in history or stories throughout the 5 weeks of Queen?
This could be embarrassing depending on who hears this. But I love pop culture. Let me give this some context, okay? I'm doing something called the Summer of Magic. It's my Summer of Magic because I typically struggle in the summer. I find it depressing and irritating, and since I've been walking the wheel of the year for however many years, I've found the summer to be more, I've learned how to tolerate it.
Yeah.
But this year I was like, I'm not just going to tolerate the summer. I'm actually going to like tap into the magic of the sun, and I'm going to have this amazing kick-ass summer. I'm going to find a way to actually enjoy it and like get as much out of it as I can. So then I decided that J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez, would be my summer queen avatar because she's 50 years old. And
is she really?
Yeah, she's doing this tour right now. She's on the road. She's got a couple movies coming out. She's a huge movie coming out called Hustler that's just now starting to do promotions. She's a mom with 2 little kids. She does so much, and now she's doing this whole birthday tour for the summer for her 50th birthday, and I'm like, okay,
wow.
I'm not a pop star kind of person. I'm more like rock and roll. So she wasn't someone I thought about until recent years when I just started having respect for her work ethic and the way that she's like demanded to be taken seriously, because in the beginning she was not the beauty ideal that Hollywood valued, and she was like a backup dancer, and she was like doing all she fought is what I'm trying to say for who she is. She created her own image. And to me, that's so queen-like, to be that intentional and that driven and that confident, to be like, dude, I'm awesome and you shall see.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of guts. And I mean, she's been doing it for so long now. I can't believe she has new movies coming out. That's exciting. I just watched Enough like last week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. Well, she looks exactly the same by some freaky thing. I don't even know how she's pulled that off, but that's
man.
beside the point. It's just like that energy level is just like, wow, okay. All right. I'm going to try to focus on this and watch a bunch of videos. And when I need a little boost, listen to some J-Lo music or something and let that fuel me. And I have found a million years ago, I did an episode on creating your own pop pantheon.
Yeah.
Because for me, pop culture has just always been of the utmost importance. I love books, I love movies, and I have found that I get more out of working with a modern day representation of an archetype typically than I do like digging into the ancient past.
Absolutely. I relate to that. I very much relate to that.
Yeah. So for a long time, it was like, what would Oprah do in this situation? Or Jack White is another big one of mine. Like, what would Jack White do? I feel like that question is just, if you're working with any archetype or you're using a celebrity as the kind of role model for life, that's such a good question. What would Paige do?
Oh my God. Paige would do nothing. She'd go hide in her room with her cat for sure.
No, it's not true.
It's probably not true. Chances of
not.
me doing nothing are not very good.
Yeah. And also, I mean, you are a product of this time.
Yeah.
When I listen to like the struggle, like when you were talking about money and the struggle that you had, it's like you have, because of the current climate and these amazing platforms and internet culture, you've been given permission to do you, to be yourself, and just to totally be who you are and get paid for it. And you're finding new ways to make that happen. And I think that's thrilling, because for a long time, really creative people that maybe were just, they had a lot of ideas, but they didn't really know what category they fit in, they just would flounder.
Yeah, they'd be working at a factory for the rest of their lives just because they need to, right? Yeah.
Yeah, being miserable and resentful about it. Or being, the black sheep of the family who's always like, sleeping on couches and asking for money to keep the lights on and things like that. And it's just like, we finally are at a time where you literally can be who you are. And if you show up, I mean, I'm not saying just like be who you are, but if you like find out what makes you special, what makes you tick, and then you find a way to show up and deliver on that, like with the podcast, for example, it's an amazing time to be alive because you can build a career on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And podcasting is really great. And we're a little off topic, but whatever. But podcasting is really great because it's not just like professional. Like oh man, doing the podcast has had such a amazing effect on like my emotional state and like all of the therapy type stuff I'm doing. Like it really adds to it. And then having the freedom to be myself just makes everything run a little bit smoother. It makes everything make a little bit more sense.
To me, that is not off topic at all. It's all the same. I always say that running an online business is the most advanced spiritual practice that I have ever encountered. And doing a podcast just takes it up to another level because you're dealing with so many different people coming at you, and you're learning how to speak with a sense of confidence. And then once you're like, I need to make a living doing this, you are confronted with the whole idea of like sales and marketing. And it's deeply, deeply challenging in a way that creates huge spiritual growth. And to me, that's a queen. I cannot separate the witch from the queen. I can't separate it out from the biz witchery because it's all been a part of the same journey for me.
Well, that makes perfect sense. I mean, all it is about recognizing your own power and like exerting your own authority, while still being fair and good to the rest of the world. And witchcraft and, being a queen or a ruler or a leader of some kind, all of that really has that same energy of you have to do what you have to do and go forth into the world and do it.
Yeah. Yep. And I think too that I learned so much, not just from doing the podcast, but like just the other women in the Queen program, for example. Like I am stunned by them. Like I'm like, whoa, you wanted to do the Queen program? You're such a badass. I've had women sign up that make more money than I do, that have more visible careers than I do, that seem to have their shit together at a really high level. And what's interesting about women like that too is they'll always say, oh, I can always learn more. Yeah. There's always something more to learn. And I think that's a real Queen mindset. I think that is that focus on continued growth. And it's not, to me also, FYI, it's a weird kind of growth because it's not really about, it's reclaiming pieces of yourself, the pieces of yourself that you've given away. And you expand, but it's really you're expanding into who you've always been and who you were always meant to be, like who you were when you were a very little girl before the world started like taking chunks out of you.
Oh, that's such a good way to say it. It's true. Taking chunks out. That's kind of what it does. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. It's kind of inward growth. You're imploding.
Yeah.
Imploding Queen. I love this idea. And I've definitely had that experience in my own private group. The people that are in there, like I learned so much from having all of those other people. Like even when they're just like discussing stuff I wrote.
Yes. Yeah.
I learn new things and I see things in my own writing or podcast episode that I hadn't noticed before.
Yeah, you don't even know it's there.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's all about other people's perception and like that connecting with other witches and people, and a lot of them are women, but not all of them, but connecting with them has been like a huge part of my all around development, spiritual development especially.
And that one of the other things that I love is that like they're so supportive of each other and just like constantly cheering each other on, and in a really cheesy, awesome way, you know, like just the super support. And that surprised me. It surprised me. Like I've had other programs that I've done where I've had, you know, a private Facebook group and, you know, and lots of conversation has happened there, but there was just a different quality to women who want to work with the Queen archetype that surprised me. I was like, whoa. We did at some point, one of the rounds, I do isolated rounds. So it's not like evergreen. It's not running all of the time. I do it once or twice a year. And one of the rounds, I asked something about, I was talking about women friendships. And it was surprising to me how so many women were saying like, I don't have any women friends, or I need more women friends. And I was like, literally, we're all saying the exact same thing. Interesting, because it was so strange because we were all, it's like being in a room full of food and saying, I'm hungry.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sad, but it's real. You start to feel really disconnected when you don't have, you know, other people that you kind of relate to. And it sounds to me like the Queen vibe is not just about like recognizing that you're a queen, but kind of recognizing the queenliness in other people too.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. Yes. Yeah. And the best thing too is if you can see a quality in somebody that you admire, you're just seeing something that you already have in yourself that's wanting to come out. Yeah. So it's great to start looking at like, just, you know, when you're watching TV or scrolling the internet, just keeping your mind like, I'm on the search for queens. And then when you find one that like really gets a rise out of you and you're like, Elizabeth Gilbert is a queen. Why do I think that? What makes her a queen? And you start asking yourself that, and then you can turn it on yourself. Like, well, where do I have that quality? Or where could I develop that quality in myself?
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. I love this idea that we just go around seeing exactly who we want to be all over the place. We see ourselves everywhere.
The shadow is so much like that. And in the witchy community, we put so much focus on projection from a negative point of view. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like you're seeing your own shadow in other people when you feel really, really charged up by something and you're like, what an asshole, what a jerk, what a loser, what a creep. I can't stand that person. Like if you're having a really big reaction, you know for sure that you're seeing something about yourself that you don't love. And we focus a lot about that in the witchy community, like shadow work is such a thing. But also, like, the opposite is true. Like, when you see somebody and you're like, oh, what a goddess, what a queen. Oh, my God, she's so amazing. I wish I could be like that. If you have a really charged up reaction to someone like that, it's the same thing. You're projecting a quality that you already have onto that person. And that leaves clues. That means you can reverse engineer that shit and find out, like, oh, how am I also awesome like this?
It's like finding out a cookie recipe.
Yeah.
Put together your own cookie recipe. That's that's fantastic. I love the idea of just kind of finding inspiration in all of the people around us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, versus just looking at, you know, ancient queens, which are still great, but I love the idea of looking at people that are actually like here and now and like in our time living this queenly lifestyle.
Yeah, and for me, it's so much about empowerment. That's why I can say, like, Jack White is a big... he's not a queen, but he gives me the queen feels because he's such an aggressive, excited, joyful entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And
he
when
probably wouldn't object to be calling a queen anyway.
No, he wouldn't mind. He would probably laugh and think it was cool.
Yeah.
But I've loved him for so long, and he's one of those people that when I say, like, what would Jack do? It helps me take another step forward.
Yeah.
It helps me do what I would not be inclined to do should I just stay in my limited comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's if you never step out of that comfort zone, you're never going to learn anything new or start anything new.
Yeah, and it's one thing, like, well, first of all, I call the comfort zone the zone of lies because you do it because it seems comfortable, but then it makes you more deeply uncomfortable because you get that weird feeling of unrest and what am I doing with my life? And it brings up a lot of ugly crap that you then just carry around with you because you kind of hate yourself for staying there when you know you're capable of more. And it's different. You know, we live in like meme culture and people love to, I myself included, love to post like positive quotes and like these memes with inspirational quotes on them. And it's just one thing to be like, step outside your comfort zone. Yeah, that sounds really groovy and exciting. But we are so complex. I have found that most of us need a lot of like tricks and processes and ways to get leverage on ourselves to actually do that in the moment. It's really easy to talk about. It's really easy to put a poster on your wall that's like, step outside the zone of lies. But then when I think like, what would Jack do? He would be so disappointed in me for not reaching out to this person or that person when I'm truly excited about this thing. And I'm going to do this for Jack. It helps me. It just helps me. And I play tricks on myself like that all the time.
Well, sometimes it helps to, you know, it helps to be like, oh, I can't let them down.
Oh my God. Athena was like that for me. I felt like, she kind of became the Jesus. She became the Jesus of my 40s. Because I remember, you know, like when you're little and you grow up in the church, it's like Jesus is watching everything you do. And I kind of had a good experience of that with Athena. Like, yeah, no, she would hate this. I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna make Athena proud today.
Yeah, she'd be so disappointed if I just did nothing today. Yeah,
she'd be bummed. Yeah.
I love doing that. I love doing that with the archetypes from tarot cards or oracle cards, especially just because it's very easy for me to just like pick one. But I love to just sit there and be like, you know, Freya wouldn't take this shit at all.
Right?
She wouldn't take this shit at all. And it really makes me want to be like, okay, well, I want to be badass. I want to be more like a goddess. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And for me, I mean, I think we're pretty much talking about the same thing. Like, for me, queen just resonated more than goddess. Like, my friend Abiola is like, goddess everything. She would not be able to talk to you without referring to you as Goddess Paige, and I am Goddess Joanna. And but for me, it's like a queen thing, like Queen Paige or Queen Joanna. It gives me probably the same feeling that Goddess gives Abiola I get from Queen. And these archetypes are amazing because we literally contain every single one of them inside, and we can tap into them at will.
Yeah.
And I love, like, witchy people. Here's what makes us awesome. We have so many things make us awesome. One of the things that makes us awesome is we have incredible imagination.
Absolutely.
And learning witchcraft, learning tarot, learning to work with archetypes is about tapping into that superpower that other people are too afraid to access, or that they just think they're too good for. That's silly, childish nonsense, and we're over here like living our best lives, like they don't know.
Yeah. Go ahead if you want to live your boring life without any magic in it, but I'm going to be over here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man, I say that to people all the time, and they're like, you need more science, and I'm like, I got plenty of science. I love science.
Oh my God, and science is so magical too. You can't get rid of the magic. It's everywhere.
No, it's just magic is just like, it's just like a swell of emotion. It's just feeling. It's just like life. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I love having that. I don't know, magic is fun.
Yes.
It makes the world beautiful. I love having it in my life. It's exciting.
I think it's what we are. I mean, I could get really out there, and I will. You know what? I will, because I can and I want to. I believe that we were created in the image of whatever created us, and that creativity is our birthright, and that because we are each unique expressions of the divine, we are fulfilling our life's purpose when we create anything. And that includes our own lives, our own experience, our own image, our own anything. I feel like it feels good because it's what we're meant to do. It's who we are. It's why we're here.
Yeah. Oh, man, I totally agree.
I told you I turn into a little bit of an evangelical. I get very, like, preachy and excited. I get so excited about this stuff. I think it's really cool.
I respect it. No, I respect the excitement, because
the enthusiasm.
I love the enthusiasm, because I get really enthusiastic when I find something that's really, really great and groundbreaking too. I get so excited. I can't wait for other people to like get in on this and get better, or become who they want to be, or what have you. I love that feeling.
Yeah, I was so excited about the queen archetype that it really actually helped me with marketing, because I lost so much shyness. It was the first time I had this really overwhelming feeling that, like, this can help people. I know for sure that this can help people. And I had heard, like Marie Forleo say, like, marketing it's a service, you're helping people by showing them that they need this thing. And that it made sense to me intellectually. But when I found the queen archetype, I was like, people need to know about this. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. So it just, like, newsletters would just come flying out, or I was just so excited and turned on, because I knew it changed me in so many ways. But one of the ways too would be like, I'm going to write a newsletter. I'm going to send it out to 8,000 people. And if only one person reads it and is like, you're speaking right to me, I needed this so much, I feel like my work was done. Screw those other 7,999 people. If one person has a real experience, it's totally worth putting yourself out there.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Agree. The emails and stuff that I get that just say things like, wow, your podcast totally helped me, rediscover witchcraft or whatever. And even if it's just that simple, I'm like, yep, this is why I do this. This is exactly it.
Mm-hmm.
This is exactly it. Yeah, that's my payment.
It can sustain you. Well, then also the queen thing, I have to hop all over that and be like, no, girl, you need to get paid.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of different kinds of getting paid. Clever Kim's Curios is happy to be a proud supporter of the Fat Feminist Witch podcast. Clever Kim's Curios makes jewelry as unique as those who are drawn to it. Featured on shows like Charmed and The Vampire Diaries, this is worn art not just drawn from nature, but featuring the power and beauty of nature itself. Using ethically sourced and purified bones, fur, and feathers, as well as magical crystals, runes, and motifs in her designs, Clever Kim's curios resonate with innate energy, grace, and magic. Find the perfect piece of jewelry to harmonize with your inner beauty at cleverkimcurios.com or on Instagram at cleverkimscurios. Listeners of the Fat Feminist Witch podcast can take 10% off all orders. Just use the coupon code FFWitch at checkout. That's Clever Kim's Curios for jewelry as unique as those drawn to it. So let's step back to the Queen course itinerary here. So what is your Queen journey? Like, what are some of the points along the way?
Well, goodness. Well, first of all, the first 3 installments, I would consider them their own individual installments and part of the whole program. They're free. There's a free 3-day video course that you sign up. It does put you on the Queen newsletter, so you will definitely get my newsletters with all my passion. It'll put you on that list, but it'll also take you through what I think is a really valuable journey in and of itself. Just with those 3 videos, to me, it's just the perfect way to start actively working with the Queen archetype. And then for people that want to go further, people that are like, yes, this is definitely for me, then there is a 5-week journey. And every 3 days you get an audio recording with journal prompts. And as light and silly and goofy as I can be sometimes, it is very intense. It's very serious because I cannot charge people money for something that I don't believe is going to create like a real shift in their life. So I want to make sure people get every penny's worth out of it. And we talk about one of my favorite installments is called Flipping the Script from pleasing to pleased.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, because little girls are taught to be pleasing.
Yeah.
And that was a hard one for me to get over. And I still find myself struggling with it in certain situations that I want to be pleasing, I want to be liked, but that the situation doesn't necessarily call for that.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really important one to me. And there's like this kind of low grade, unintentional, and for the most part, I think, abuse that happens to little girls and little boys, both, when we're like, go sit on that strange uncle you never have seen before. Go sit on his lap and let him breathe his bad breath in your face and give him a hug and give him a kiss on the cheek. It's like, whoa. What are we teaching kids to do here?
Absolutely. And especially with girls, I think, especially when we're young, it just became normal to teach young girls to be quiet and keep everyone happy to avoid trouble versus dealing with the trouble in the first place, especially if the trouble's coming from a man. So that's a pretty hard step to get over.
Yeah. I think it depends on who you are and how you grew up, but all the things I talk about were hard steps for me to get over. There's one I really love that talks about advocating for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something that a lot of women learn through being moms. But even then, there's so many moms that this is so sad to me, and it's real. This is a real thing, and I'm not blaming anybody or shaming anyone, but there are so many moms that put their kids in harm's way because they're afraid that they need a man to survive.
Yeah.
And they might know that they're with an abusive partner, for example, or they might know that they're with a man who's like gambling away their money and putting them in real danger financially and real and they will stay. Even, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And they'll tell themselves they're doing it for their kids, but that is such a disempowered place. Like, I have a special place in my heart for those women because I was in an emotionally, financially, sexually abusive relationship for years that I know impacted my son. He wasn't abusive toward my son, but I think when a child sees their mother in an abusive situation, even if it's purely psychological, that has an impact.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It impacts their self-esteem. And I have found that it's just interesting that a lot of women come to self-advocacy for their kids because they want to advocate for their kids. Or in my case, I was more than happy to like bust out the sacred bitch in defense of my son. Like I was his best advocate. I still am, but I didn't advocate for myself.
Yeah.
And in that way, it was harmful. And I mean, there's so many layers to this, but
yeah, even just that point, I've known so many moms who are like ride or die for their kids, and they've always got their kids' backs, which is awesome, of course.
Yes,
but
totally.
Big problem. And I think part of that is socialization. I think that's one of those socialization things a little bit. I think we're weird about parenting in our society.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
I don't know how else to say it. I think we're weird about it in our society.
I mean, humans are weird. We are a strange, self-defeating species. I don't know what we're doing. I mean, that's why I have so much to talk about, because I'm like constantly like, whoa, okay, we're really doing this. All right. And I mean that as a culture, and then I mean that just for myself personally. Yeah. And then I choose to end the Queen journey. Well, that's not true. The last installment is a video, and it's like your coronation day, because I want you to feel like you graduated from something. You know what I mean? Like, go forth, wear your crown, woman. But the last audio installment is about money. It's about fiscal sovereignty, because, like, going back to what I was just saying, that impacts everything, but particularly if you're in a relationship that you feel you can't leave. Like, being financially sovereign is power at your job, to have like, you know, like a fuck you account where I can leave any situation, at any time if I have to. I'm not going to stay in a situation because I have to.
Yeah. That's so important. And I feel like women especially, but anyone, they just don't get the information that, like, you need to have a plan for yourself. It's okay to have a separate bank account, even if you're married or in a relationship or whatever. Like, it's okay to have your own stuff. It's okay to have your own money. It's okay to have that stuff. And
if you don't, that's abuse.
You're trapped.
That's abuse. If you're in a relationship where you're a stay-at-home mom and a housekeeper, and your husband controls all the money, that's an abusive situation, because you should have your own money. It doesn't matter who's getting the paycheck if you both are contributing to the household. And this is another thing I get really fired up about, because it's fine if you want to be a stay-at-home mom. That's totally cool. Absolutely. That's legit. Being a mother is hard work. It's important work, but also you need to be protected financially, and you just never know. You know, your husband could pass away, or you could find out that he has this happened to me. I found out my husband had this whole secret life I did not know about. And it involved money, it involved sex, it involved all kinds of shady things that I did not know were going on. And that happens all the time. Yeah. And women are inclined to be like, not my husband. No, he wouldn't do that. Yeah. You wouldn't do that. But the shadow is real. The shadow is hidden. That means you don't know everything about yourself or the person that you're with.
Yeah. And everybody keeps things about themselves in the dark. Everybody keeps a few things to themselves completely. And sometimes those things take over.
Particularly if they're shady.
Yeah, if they're already a really shady person, those things are going to be even worse.
Well, if they know the thing is bad, if they know, like, I'm a serial cheater, they're not going to tell their wife that. Or if they know, like, I have a gambling problem and I'm constantly risking my family's financial welfare, they're probably not going to go tell their wife that.
Probably not.
They're going to be like, everything's fine, honey. Don't you worry. I got it taken care of. And they're going to leave for work and then, like, be like, I got to go to the track. Holy crap, she's going to kill me if I don't, like, get this money. You know, it's like, oh my. Come on, people. Like, we are familiar with what the shadow is. So let's just acknowledge that we need to protect ourselves, even from the people we love the most. Yeah. Financially, have an open heart. Be loving, be trusting, be generous, but also, like, advocate for yourself and take care of yourself and make sure that at any moment you could leave if you needed to.
Yeah, that's so important, because we're so fortunate to live in a time now where You can be married and be independent. You can be married and your own person. So you might as well grab both those things.
Mm-hmm. And it's worth having hard conversations about, because girls are not the only ones who are indoctrinated into this bizarre cultural agreement that we have about like men and women. Little boys are too, and they can find it very threatening and weird and challenging. So it's worth going to therapy, or it's just worth having those tough conversations to explain that, like, I love you. I totally do. I just think it will set us both free if I need my own money to feel like a whole person. And that's going to be better for our relationship in the end. And that's the end of my relationship counseling today. Thank you very much.
Always have a fuck you fund. Always.
Always. And that goes for your job too. Yeah. Like, so many people are in jobs that they hate because they feel like they cannot leave.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, I've so been there, and I was so poor when I had to quit those jobs and did not have a fuck you fund waiting in the wind for when I left. It was a nightmare.
Yeah. Do you know who, oh my gosh, her name just flew right out of my head. It'll pop. Lisa Nichols. Do you know who Lisa Nichols is?
I don't know. I don't think so.
She's like a personal development, self-help kind of speaker woman, like super, talk about enthusiastic. But she flipped the script on her day job that she hated, and she started seeing that it was funding her dream. It was an investment in her dream. Like, she was so poor that she had to like wrap her son in a towel because she couldn't afford diapers, and he would just be like cruising around in a towel for a few days. Like, she was really poor, and she actually started taking like big chunks out of her paycheck and putting it into her dream fund at the bank. And the bank tellers actually started like being like, here she's again. Oh my gosh, she's putting money in this fund again. And they were like, started rooting for her and like paying attention, because it went on and on and on for a couple of years until she finally walked in one day and she had like reached her goal and was able to quit her job to fund her dream of being an author and a speaker. So if you want to be, for example, like we've been talking about, a podcaster, and you want that to pay your bills, but you're in a job that you hate, you can actually change your mindset around that and start seeing like, this is my freedom fund. This is like funding my dream. And you can start with your podcast in your spare time, but then you can also start socking away money so you can have, a good 6 months cushion to really make it happen.
Yeah, and you've only got 6 more months at this job that you don't like, theoretically. You've got a way out, you've got a plan. You have your little escape rope, and you're feeling fine.
Again, why I love Athena. To me, she's like the queen of strategy. Yeah. And it's like, you need a plan. You need a strategy. It's not, I mean, here I am having my leap year about taking leaps of faith, but it's not just like randomly leaping off the cliff for the sake of leaping off the cliff. Like, you want to have a plan. You want to have a strategy, and then you want to work the plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you said leap, I instantly thought of the Fool tarot card, and they're about to just lovingly step off the edge of this cliff without looking. And like, part of the message of that card is, it's cool to leap forward and to go out on a journey and to start a whole new thing. But if you're not watching where you're going, or you don't have a plan, you could end up in a lot of trouble. And it makes the whole journey kind of a bad experience. So having that little bit of a plan, or just a fund even, is like, it's important to starting the whole journey.
And to building faith and trust in yourself. Yeah. That's another thing that I think is one choice at a time. You win your own sense of being a queen, one little choice at a time. Every time you act in your favor, every time you do the spiritually mature thing, every time you stand up for yourself, you get like another little piece back of yourself, and another little piece of sovereignty, and another little piece of empowerment. And it's something that grows over time.
Until you've got a big badass crown.
Yeah.
Little full of all the crystals and gems and bits and pieces that you've been reclaiming.
Yeah, we're so born with it though too. If you
Yeah.
look at a little girl who comes from a semi-healthy family, if you look at like a little pre-kindergarten girl, she's just like sassy and she'll just be like woohoo, she'll just bust out into a dance because she feels like it. She'll
Yeah.
wear a purple sock on her head because she feels like it. She'll tell you no. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we start out that way. We're just trained out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. I often miss, the kind of badass tiny child I was when I just didn't understand the world. I kind of miss that all the time. That's why getting in touch with your like inner child is very important.
Definitely.
Yeah. I'm loving this entire like course here.
Yeah, it's so fun, right?
I'm loving this. I like that you've made it still sounds very, very deep and a little bit challenging, but it sounds really rewarding in the end.
Yeah, I mean, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun because I'm fun, Paige. I'm a silly, happy person, but also it's like serious life, for some people, life-saving stuff. For real. Like it changes everything. If you really, you're only going to get out of it what you put into it, but everything is like that. You can't like buy that treadmill and then use it as a laundry rack and expect to have your buns of steel that you've been dreaming of.
Yeah, if your running shoes stay in the box, you're not gonna have a really nice ass in 6 months like you planned.
Exactly. And that's important to say to the magical community, because I feel like I'm a big fan of meeting the universe halfway.
Yeah.
And I think there's this illusion in the magical community that you can just like magics your way to everything that you want. But can you please just look around at your fellow witches and pagans and be like, they're not exactly living the kick-ass life of their dreams. Like their car is duct taped together and they're like worried about the gas being shut off. It's more than magic. We are magic. We are magic. And when you meet the universe halfway, when you take action on your own behalf, yes, all these amazing synchronicities happen. And yes, you can use magic to set a powerful intention or to get aligned with something you desire. But then, you got to actually show up too.
Yeah. I find that in the last few years anyway, I found that most of any sort of spells or rituals I do, they're less about like, attract money and more about working on my own issues with money or working on, my problems with money or my, my strengths with money. I find that I focus more on the self-exploration part of magic, and then that just kind of, it like works itself out after.
Yes, it totally does. That's also why I'm a believer in like attracts like. If you change yourself, you change your life. If you heal old crappy patterns, you stop attracting old crappy things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then you don't need to do a million spells about send cash.
Yeah, I think that's a little tiny bit too related to giving your power away. It's a little bit like, help! You're like petitioning the gods, please, I need $50 to pay this bill. And then maybe you do get the $50 through magic, but then 2 weeks later you're like, help! And now I need $120 to pay this bill. Yeah. And it's just this constant having to be at the mercy of something outside yourself instead of becoming like you are who you've been waiting for, being that person.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have that route to heal the problem on your own. It's cool to need, that $50 once in a while. Sometimes shit happens and you need that money. But it's better to just be living the kind of life that supports your dreams and supports the things that you want to do, so that you don't constantly have to be petitioning them for their one-time help.
Yeah, and and it's cool to ask. I'm all about that. Here's an interesting queen thing. Okay, I would love it if Paige, the Fat Feminist Witch, was like noticing me on Twitter and being like, oh, Joanna's launching this queen program. I should totally have her on the podcast. There's a part of me that really, really, really just wants it to be like that. Yeah. But I was like, I really, really want to be on her podcast. I definitely want to like tell whatever women are listening about the queen archetype. And then I procrastinated for like 4 days. Because I was like, what if Paige doesn't like me? What if she's just What if she's just polite to me on social media because she doesn't want to look like an ass in public? What if she only came on my podcast because she wanted to promote her shit, but she secretly hates my podcast? I had all those feelings.
All of those things could have totally been true. They're not, but they totally could have been.
They could have been.
Yeah.
And then I just had that moment where I was like, just friggin' ask. For God, be a queen. Like, you're literally wanting to talk about the queen archetype and you're acting like a total chicken. Like, put on your good big girl panties and just ask. And and I did. And this is the first interview I've ever asked for and got. And so it's a little queen milestone, Paige.
That's right. Oh, happy to oblige. You know what? I'm always afraid to send out an email and ask people to be on the show. That's hard.
I don't mind asking them to come on my show because I love promoting other people. I love helping other people. I love introducing my audience to new people. But then I guess I have self-esteem issues around but would Paige's audience want to hear from me? I don't know.
Maybe other people don't like talking about other people.
Maybe I'm too weird.
Oh my God. If you're too weird, then I don't know what anyone's doing listening to the show.
Weird must stay. There's so many of us.
Yeah. And I love weirdos. I love weirdos, so the weirder the better. This has been so interesting. So interesting. I'm loving the idea of working more with a queen archetype. Like I said, I kind of dipped my toes into it last year, but I'm loving this energy, this very independent and empowered energy. That's what I'm all about.
Yeah. And I think it is about independence, and then it becomes about interdependence and partnering with other women for things like we're doing right now, or just supporting other women. And it's not about putting yourself out there in a public way. Like, that's something you could do just in the lunchroom at your corporate day job.
Yeah.
It's joining forces with other women that are at your job and that maybe you haven't connected with because you just assume that you don't have anything in common when, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, I do. Happens to me all the time. It can be hard sometimes. Mm-hmm. It can be hard to connect with other women. I like that. I like that you're noticing that the program is very much fostering that supportive vibe, because that's just so important. That's so important.
We want that. And
yeah.
I think we're trained to think that, women, we're always in competition with each other because there's only one woman can get the job or the man or the whatever. It's just old. That's just old. That's just not true anymore.
Yeah. Live your whole life like you're a drunk girl in a club bathroom helping out the girl at the mirror.
Yeah. I'm Gen X, and I have to say, that's a very good point. I'm Gen X, and I have to say that the millennial generation was so shocking to me. And then the other generations coming up after the millennials, but the things that millennials were talking about and introducing into the general conversation that we're all having, I was just oh my, what? I was learning so much from the younger generation, and now I see how much of a product I was of I grew up in the 80s, but I definitely grew up in a 1950s mentality. That's just where my family was at the time. And so now I see teenagers and girls that are just barely in their 20s that are doing things that I'm just now learning to do.
Yeah.
And I'm whoa, what are these new generations doing? We've got all these queens coming onto the scene all of a sudden.
I know. All of these kids are just crushing it. I have a friend who started a business. She started a business forever ago now. She's younger than I am, and she just got it. She just started a second one. And I'm just holy shit. You kids are just, you're
amazing.
Absolutely crushing it. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, it's wild. You know what I think too? This comes back to what I was saying about the democracy of art. It's because these women, these little girls are growing up with oh, I could be president, or I could be a superhero, or they're seeing themselves reflected. And this is a whole separate conversation, but that's why I think it's so important for women who are plus size, as they like to call it back in the day, becoming models and pop singers and actresses, or women of color all of a sudden are on the cover of a magazine, or
So
women that are
important.
older than the age of, I don't know, 30. It's just like, holy smokes, we're all being reflected back at ourselves in a way that matters. It truly matters to who we're going to become.
Yeah. It's really beautiful to watch, actually, especially with much older women who are becoming models in their 60s or 70s, and they just look so badass, badass, those old ladies. And I'm just like, I am loving this because they're not even from these younger generations. They're adopting that that whole philosophy where it's like, well, we get to decide who we are now.
Yes.
And
oh my gosh, I'm so happy they're there. I'm so happy there's women that are 20 and 30 years older than me that are modeling and being held up as being beautiful, because part of sexism and part of this whole like patriarchal system that we're very, very slowly working our way out of was that there's an expiration date on you.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
And that you grow more invisible as you get older. Or, just the language that we used. Who did I just interview? Jericho Brown said something that just freaked me out recently. And I'm really like jumping topics here. But he was talking about language, the language we use. And he was talking about saying like a woman got raped. Like she got something.
Yeah.
Like she just went to the store and got something. I had never heard anybody say that before. And when he said that, I was like,
that's messed
whoa,
up.
Oh my God. Like the language, the visuals, everything is from this one paradigm. And that's why we're always like, oh, I'm so woke. Like that whole like hashtag is super annoying, but also super true, because we're all just like waking up like one little aha moment at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. It's been happening a lot in the last, I don't know. I just keep getting this feeling like the world is really amping up for something crazy.
I hope it's good. Can I tell you another random aside?
Yeah.
Do you know Galaxy Tone, the app, the tarot app?
Yeah.
Shauna Hill. Shauna did the Queen program. I don't think she'd mind me saying that because she left me a kick-ass testimonial with her name on it. But I was always squawking on about how Working Girl, the movie Working Girl, is like one of my favorite movies. And it's like this whole feminist thing. And then she comes on Facebook and she's like, what are you talking about? Like, that movie's horrible. And she was seeing it from a totally different perspective than I was. She was seeing it as a millennial woman, and like that women were being pitted against each other and all of this stuff. And I did explain, I had to defend myself, that in the end, the women actually do, come together. Like, I don't know if anybody knows the movie Working Girl. You'll just have to pay attention to the end if you decide to watch it, because of something I'm saying here. And a woman who fights her way up the corporate ladder from being like a very demeaned secretary, and the very end, she actually lifts her secretary up. And that's the message. But the whole thing, she just blew my... It's a generational thing. So I guess like younger women see that movie and they're like, well, this is crap.
Yeah, because it takes so long to get to the important part. Like, you want to see that happen in the middle and then see that woman's life explode. But
just all the sexual harassment, too, that I didn't even think about. I was just like, this is just life. I wasn't really, like, thinking about that. I was just like, yeah, that sucks, but that's just what it's like to be a woman.
Yeah, it really can be. Luckily, I feel like that's going to start happening a whole lot less.
Oh, you cannot get away with that shit anymore. And men that are stupid enough to try, I mean, good luck to you, sir, because you are definitely going to be a Twitter hashtag in the next 24 hours. And there's going to be video evidence of your dumb ass.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's time to just realize that women are people now.
Yeah.
Like, I apparently that sucks for you, but women are people now, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and the craziest thing about that, and again, this is a queen thing for me, is I'm realizing women are people.
Yeah.
And I'm a woman. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Nobody told me.
Well, it's because, some some younger women now are getting that message that they're people just way earlier than you used to. Just way earlier, like.
Yeah, and I think too, like, I know we're probably going over time here, but I think like the whole journey, whatever journey you're on, but speaking specifically about the queen journey, it's like 2 steps forward and 1 step back, 2 steps forward and 1 step back, because we have really deep subconscious programs in place that are stronger often than our deliberate intent, than what we intend. We end up falling into old patterns, particularly if you're ever challenged. And in my late 20s, I built up a badass life for myself, a career, like a big circle of friends. And then I went on to start my first business in 2003. And then I gave all of my power away to a man. Like, I built it all up to tear it back down again. And then I had to build it all back up years later. And I mean, I let the tear it down phase go on and on and on and on and on. It was ridiculous.
You get stuck in that loop, that cycle.
It is what it is. I mean, it happened. That was me. Those are choices I made. And now I can only just, hopefully prevent other women from going down that path. But it's interesting how you can be a feminist and you can have all these ideas, but then this program that's like running underneath the surface of your conscious awareness has it's a whole other agenda.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't always realize how deep those societal hooks as far as gender and everything goes. We don't always know how deep those actually go in.
Yeah, totally.
Totally. It can be kind of hard to figure that out too. So I like that there's lots of like journaling prompts and self-discovery throughout the whole Queen program. I love that because I think that's really what it's all about. You got to find it in there already.
Yeah, it's self-guide. I mean, I was going to say self-guided, but I guess I technically am your guide. That's what the audio journey portion of it is for. But it's like self-study. You do it on your own time. But the reason I run the program, like I shut it down, like it's available for pre-order. And then the day we start, in this case, that's August 1st, I close the sales because I want us all to go on the journey together because it's just more empowering. You get to meet the other women. And then that's why we have the private Facebook group. So yes, everybody gets the same installment at the same time and they might do it on a different day. But generally, we're doing it together so you can show up in the group and be like, holy crap, this installment kicked my ass. And you can, compare notes and support each other. And I'll be totally honest, there's a lot of women who have not made it all the way through the program. There's quite a few. I laugh because I know who they are. And I totally don't have a judgment on that. That's fine. Like, it is intense and some people need to take it in chunks. So I always make it available to anybody who's ever done the Queen program. Like, you can do it again and again and again till you reach the end. And then you can do it again if you feel like it. Because I do it myself every time.
That's great. Because sometimes you just need to consider certain things just a little bit longer. You need to really think about it, and you need to really like explore it or try to apply it in life before you can move on to the next thing. So it's cool that you can go back and like keep going at your own pace. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I tend to just want to like jump in and get really deep right away. And not everybody wants to go at that pace. I think sometimes my enthusiasm like shows up as like an intensity that I don't realize is there until I get feedback from other people. And they're like, holy moly, I'm still thinking about what you said 3 days ago.
That's awesome. I love that. But that's good. It's good to have that pump up energy. I'm feeling pumped right now.
Hey!
I'm feeling pumped right now. So I'm pretty excited. Yeah, like I said, I'm doing the free 3-day video series right now. And I loved the first part. It was great. Super relatable. And it really helped me hit on some like really serious stuff without making me too sad.
Yeah, no, I think we talked about that before we actually started rolling here. Yeah. But that's like a really important thing to know about shadow work or doing the Queen journey is it's really tempting to beat up on yourself when you're looking at your life. Like I was just saying, like, oh, and then I gave all my power away to a man, and then I stayed in that place for many years. It would be so easy to beat up on myself about that.
Yeah.
But I can't get those years back. And all I can do at this point is just look at it and recognize it. I don't have to shame myself for it. I don't have to make myself even wrong for it. I can just say was doing the best that I knew to do at that time. And now I know better. Yeah. So I'm going to do better. And if I don't, they say like history repeats itself. If you don't know history, it will repeat itself. So it gives you opportunity to look, but don't beat up on yourself. Don't take it as an excuse to be mean to yourself.
Yeah, it just doesn't help. Like you said, you can't go back and change it, and beating yourself up about it isn't going to fix any of the residual problems or anything from it. It's just not going to help.
Yeah, and big hugs to all the moms listening who have all the mom regrets. Like they're working with single moms is like my favorite because I just relate, and I there's just so much that comes with that, like being the person who has to make all the money and keep the house clean and make sure everybody's fed, and like all the judgment that comes on you if your house is not perfect and your car is like hasn't been washed in 2 weeks and you're just like, I'm doing everything. There's so much self-hatred that can come along with a role like that, and it's so nice to lift that burden for yourself or to help someone else do it.
Yeah, moms, oh my God. Moms are a whole other, like, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine the kind of pressure that moms are under. It's like terrifying to me. It's
yes.
Like,
you
it's
scream
like
at
feeling
your
a
kid
boulder
and you think about it for 10 years. Oh, sorry, we're talking over each other. I was just saying, if you like yell at your kid, if you lose your patience, you'll be like 10 years later stewing over that. You're just having a fabulous meal with a beautiful man, and all of a sudden you're like, remember that time that you yelled at your kid because they spilled milk on the floor or whatever it is. It's just like, the guilt is real.
Yeah, the guilt is so real. And I just like, oh man, it takes strong arms to carry that baggage, man.
For sure.
For sure. That's like a whole other thing. So I think that was all of the like questions I had put aside for our chat today. Is there anything else about the Queen program or in general that you would like people to know?
No, I just think if anybody's curious about it, again, like you can do the free 3-day thing. And see how it lands for you. See where it takes you. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. Unsubscribe. Yeah. And you won't get my passionate emails.
You're going to be missing out.
Yeah. But at the very least, I mean, you can keep those videos forever and you can return to them anytime you want. And I just think it's a really great introduction to actively working with the Queen archetype instead of sort of keeping it up in your head as an idea. It's like bringing it more into your physical reality.
Cool. Perfect. That sounds so much fun. What a fun interview, isn't it, Joanna? All the things I said, just very enthusiastic and supportive and very magical. It was truly a delight to have her on the show. She's really fun to talk to. Actually, I caught myself talking a little too much. I got a little too chatty, so I'm sorry if I sound like I go on tangents throughout the episode, but she's very easy to talk to. So thank you so much, Joanna, for coming on the show. If you guys want to learn more about Joanna and maybe sign up for Queen, go to joannadevoe.com. You can find all the information there. Of course, I'll put the specific links to the course in the description for the episode here. And I highly recommend checking out the 3-day free, I guess you could say, the little primer course on Queen. I really, really enjoyed it and found it super insightful. So I hope you guys will too. And again, I'll put the link in the description. Thank you so much, all of you, for listening today on this, let's go with beautiful Monday afternoon. Because I'm hoping if I say it now, by the time this episode comes out on a Monday afternoon, it'll be true. Maybe. If you want to find out more about me and about the Fat Feminist Witch podcast, you can go to thefatfeministwitch.com. You can find me all across social media. Oh, you can also find Joanna all across social media. I think I forgot to mention that. I love her on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. She's all over, and I think I met her through Twitter. She's got an awesome Twitter presence, let's say. So you can find us both on social media. If you want to advertise on the Fat Feminist Witch, you can go to advertisecast.com and see the plans there. And if you would like to join my private monthly membership group, you can do so through Patreon. So patreon.com/thefatfeministwitch. It's $10 a month. And you get access to our private Facebook group where we talk about a lot of the same topics you hear me talk about on the show. Most of the research that I do and a lot of the inspiration I find for my episodes comes from the work we do in the group. So it's a great way to get a little more involved, to let me know about the books you want me to read or review, more likely. And any sort of topics that you want to see on the Fat Feminist Witch. That's a great way to kind of influence me a little bit. So thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful rest of your week. Lunasa is on Thursday, or Lammas, the first harvest of the year. So I hope you all have a really wonderful Lunasa. It's a really nice, it's a good holiday for eating. It's a good eating holiday. It's, the harvest. And before I let you go, I have a special message from my advertiser, Clever Kim's Curios. So stay tuned to listen for that because it includes a coupon code so that you guys can get a discount when you're shopping on the store. Bye everybody, and thank you for tuning in. Special thanks to the sponsor of today's episode, Clever Kim's Curios, jewelry as unique as those drawn to it. Fat Feminist Witch listeners can apply coupon code FFWitch at checkout and get 10% off their purchase at cleverkimcurios.com.